Chapter 1. My dad once gifted me a huge villa. Most people would have been thrilled, but honestly, I found it way too luxurious. It didn't fit with the image I had of myself. On campus, I was known as the artsy literary type. Living in a flashy mansion just didn't suit me. So after visiting once, I left it empty. A month later, a new freshman joined our university's art club. He was short, chubby, and his face was covered in acne. He claimed the villa was his, and that his dad was the richest man in the world. I looked at him, confused, wondering what kind of nonsense he was talking about. I'm the president of our university's art club, and to me, art is about talent, not about money. I've never wanted people to think my art is good just because I come from a wealthy family. That's why no one knows that my dad is actually the richest man in the world. For a while, I was happy keeping that secret. I lived a peaceful life as the so-called campus heartthrob, dating my cute girlfriend, Fernanda, and staying under the radar. Then that freshman, Charles, walked in, surrounded by excited club members. He had that smug look people get when they think they're important. "My dad's the richest man in the world," he announced. My first thought was, wait, did the richest man change recently? Then Charles took out his phone, opened his gallery, and showed everyone a picture of my dad. He even held it up next to his own face and said, "See? My dad and I look like we were cut from the same mold." I froze. What kind of joke was this? I immediately called my dad. "Dad," I asked, "is there something you forgot to tell me? Like maybe another son?" My dad sounded genuinely shocked. He swore on his life that I was his only son, and I believed him. I turned to Charles and asked, "Is your dad really Martin Lin?" He puffed his chest out. "That's right. I'm his only son. My name's Charles Lin." I felt anger rise in me. "Does Martin know he has a son like you?" I muttered, half to myself. But I decided not to expose him yet. I wanted to see how far he'd take his little game. "Noah, let Charles join the club," one of the members, Alex, suggested. "He said we can have a barbecue at his villa this weekend." "Sure," I said with a polite smile. "Just give me your student ID so I can register you." Charles hesitated, but handed it over. I looked at his ID. His place of birth said a city. "Wait," I said, puzzled. "Isn't the richest man from B City? Why does it say a city?" Charles quickly replied, "Our ancestral home is in a city, but we live in B City now." What? My family's ancestral home is in B City. So this guy was clearly bluffing. My dad is a private man, and very few people know any details about our family, which must have made it easy for Charles to lie. "You said we're having the barbecue at your villa this weekend?" I asked. A proud smile spread across his face. "That's right. My dad bought me a villa in Zijing Terrace, near campus. I go there all the time." A bad feeling hit me hard. Could it be he was talking about my villa? The one my dad gave me a month ago? I'd only gone there once before deciding it wasn't for me. It was too big, too flashy. I left it empty. So how did it suddenly become his? The club members were thrilled. A villa owned by the richest man? Count me in. Yeah, me too. Charles smiled grandly. "Anyone who wants to come is welcome." Everyone cheered, and I couldn't help but smirk. That villa had facial and fingerprint recognition locks. Only my information was in the system. I was genuinely curious to see how Charles planned to get in. Chapter 2. My girlfriend, Fernanda, invited me to lunch in the cafeteria. She's a student council officer, graceful, ambitious, and though her background is modest, she's always been dedicated to me. After 2 years of dating, I was actually planning to tell her the truth about who I was and introduce her to my parents. So, during lunch, I casually asked, "Fernanda, have you heard of Martin's son?" She looked surprised. "Are you talking about that freshman, Charles?" I nearly choked on my food. She quickly patted my back, concerned. "You always eat so fast. Honestly, how can you still choke like a kid?" I forced a laugh, but inside I was stunned. Even Fernanda had heard about this fake rumor? That made things complicated. I decided not to reveal anything yet, not until I exposed this fake Charles first. Otherwise, Fernanda might think I was joking. "Yeah, that Charles guy," I said. "I don't really know him," she replied casually. That made sense. She was usually with me. How could she know him well? I let the topic drop. After finishing her meal, Fernanda said she had something to do and left in a hurry. I stayed behind, finishing my food slowly. That's when someone sat down across from me. I looked up, expecting Fernanda, but it was Charles. "Noah," he said with a smirk, "I didn't know Fernanda was your girlfriend." He leaned back arrogantly. "I've taken a liking to her. Why don't you step aside? Name your price." For a moment, I just stared at him. I'd been raised to stay humble, to never boast, even though I'm the true heir to one of the richest families in the world. But hearing those words from a fraud made my blood boil. "Oh," I said coldly. "Then tell me, what can you offer?" Charles crossed his arms confidently. "You're in your 3rd year, right? Once you graduate, I can recommend you for a position at Lin Sheng Group." He raised 7 fingers. "You could earn this much a year." I let out a short laugh. "That's it? You're saying you've got nothing to offer now, just empty promises for later?" Charles didn't back down. "Noah, I hope you can think long-term. Don't get caught up in small benefits." His tone, condescending, fake, disgusted me. I looked him up and down. "You claim to be the eldest son of the Lin family. I don't believe it." His pupils twitched, but he quickly masked it. "You'll believe me when I take you to the mansion this weekend." "Who says having a mansion proves anything?" I said, smirking. "Maybe you just rented it." I stood up, walked over, and flicked at his overly styled hair. "Your hair's flashy, but it's thinning. You must not take good care of it." Then I grabbed his hand and examined his palm. "These calluses look like you've done manual labor." The eldest son of the Lin family doing hard labor? That doesn't add up. Finally, I tugged at his clothes. "Your outfit, pants, shoes, they're all designer brands, carefully maintained. But they don't suit you. Your whole look feels forced. Could it be these clothes were stolen?" That last word hit him hard. His face twisted. "You're insane," he shouted, before storming off. I watched him go and chuckled quietly. Could he really be a thief? Chapter 3. Fernanda didn't come for money. When we first started dating, she was shy, dark-skinned, and thin. But I helped her improve her diet, introduced her to my circle, and bought her the things she needed: clothes, accessories, everything. Watching her transform from a timid girl into a bright, confident woman admired by everyone made me proud. I honestly believed her heart belonged to me and me alone. As for Charles, short, chubby, and full of lies, there was no way she'd ever fall for someone like him. Even if he were the real son of the richest man, I was sure Fernanda would still choose me. So I didn't take his arrogance seriously. He'd expose himself soon enough. But that night, a video from our cafeteria confrontation appeared on the school's online forum. The title read, "Genius versus Prince. Vote to decide who wins the beauty's heart." It went viral instantly. What shocked me was that Charles had far more votes than I did. I scrolled through the comments in disbelief. Between a handsome guy and the chance to skip 30 years of hard work, I'll choose the latter. In front of money, talent means nothing. Was everyone really that shallow? I started to think maybe hiding my wealth had been a mistake. How could people not see that Charles was a fraud? Then I saw one sensible comment from a user named Diana. "Based on Charles's age, the timeline doesn't add up." The real Mrs. Lin had a full public schedule that year, with photos showing no signs of pregnancy. Attached, photos of Mrs. Lin throughout that year. Finally, someone logical. I liked her comment immediately. Later that day, I went to the student council office to find Fernanda. But as soon as I arrived, I saw something that stopped me cold. Charles was there, talking to her. Actually, pestering her. Rage shot through me. That faker was using my name and my family to bother my girlfriend? "Fake prince," I snapped. "Isn't it enough to be a thief? Now you're trying to be a homewrecker too." Charles's expression turned dark. "Who are you calling fake?" I sneered. "Do I need to repeat myself? You're short and unattractive. Who gave you the confidence to pretend to be a wealthy heir?" I thought Fernanda would be on my side. I expected her to tell him off. But instead, she stepped between us, frowning. "Noah, that's enough. Chaz isn't who you think he is." "Chaz," I repeated. She just told me she barely knew him. Now she was calling him by a nickname? If it's not what I think, I said coldly, then explain. I'm not a jealous man, but I have no tolerance for betrayal. My girlfriend can be simple, even poor, but she can't make a fool out of me. Fernanda hesitated. Let me walk you back to your dorm, and I'll explain on the way. I shook my head, stepping back. No. Explain right here. In front of him. We've got time. She looked down, her lips trembling, unable to say a word. Chapter 4. Charles saw everything and smiled smugly. He reached out and took Fernanda's hand. Noah, why humiliate yourself, he said, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. The truth is, I confessed to Fernanda, and she agreed to give me a chance to pursue her. Fernanda's face didn't look good, but she didn't pull her hand away from his. And on the same hand holding his, she was still wearing the watch I'd given her for her birthday, a gift worth tens of thousands that I'd asked my cousin to bring back from abroad. At that moment, it felt like being struck by lightning. Not because I was deeply in love with Fernanda, but because I couldn't accept two things. First, I was wrong about her. She wasn't loyal or sincere, but someone who switched sides easily. Second, she'd abandoned me for a short, unattractive guy running a poorly executed scam. She hadn't even gotten anything from his so-called promises, and yet she defected just like that. If she'd ever looked up the prices of the gifts I'd given her over the past 2 years, she wouldn't be so easily satisfied with whatever Charles was offering. I turned and walked away, knowing that it was over between Fernanda and me. I've always had a zero-tolerance policy in relationships. I can't accept a girlfriend who's unfaithful or even looks at another guy while being with me. Fernanda chased after me, desperate, trying to explain herself as we walked. Noah, listen to me. Charles asked if he could pursue me. What was I supposed to say? I could only tell him that it's his freedom. I didn't say anything else. Please don't be angry. I won't accept him. I only love you. She clung to my arm, pulling me along from the administrative building to the classroom building. Let go. I was so furious I almost laughed. Did she really think I was a child? That a few words like that could make me forget everything? I didn't want to waste more words on her, but Fernanda knew I wouldn't get rough with a woman. So she tried to kiss me, grabbing my hand and pressing it against her waist as I tried to push her away. We were locked in that awkward struggle when someone suddenly came out of the classroom building. This person walked straight up to us, grabbed Fernanda's wrist, and with one swift movement, twisted it and pushed her away. Who are you? Fernanda cried in pain, falling to the ground and clutching her arm. The girl turned to me. Are you okay, Noah? She asked. Only then did I really look at her. Clean, long hair, sharp and lively features. Her face looked familiar. Then it hit me. Wasn't she the one who defended me on the campus forum? Diana, I blurted out. She looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected me to recognize her name. She nodded slightly, then glanced at the teary-eyed Fernanda still sitting on the ground. What about her? Diana asked flatly. I looked down at Fernanda. Noah, believe me, Fernanda pleaded. I'll explain everything, okay? What just happened was really a misunderstanding. Please, ask this outsider to leave first. I felt a deep sadness inside me. Did this two-faced woman really think I was some fool she could keep playing with? I wasn't going to let her off that easily. If she dared to play games with me, I'd make sure she regretted it deeply. I took out my phone and started recording Fernanda's desperate attempts to make up with me. Fernanda, I said as I filmed, we've been together for 2 years. I still have feelings for you. If you repeat what you just said on video, say that Charles is the one pursuing you, that you have no interest in him, and that you'll never accept him, then I'll forgive you. I brought the phone close to her face. Do you dare to say that? Her expression changed from red to green and back to red again. I knew exactly what she was thinking. Her makeup was ruined. Her poise was gone. Her grace lost. If she said those words on camera, then forget being with Martin's son. No self-respecting guy would approach her again. And she didn't want to lose that chance. Noah, she said finally, turning her face away. There's nothing more to say. Let's break up. Finally, I got the outcome I expected. I sneered and calmly turned off the video. Get lost, I said coldly. Fernanda, probably too ashamed to look at me, ran away with her head down. Honestly, I wasn't as calm inside as I looked on the outside. In that moment, I really wanted to rush after her and reveal everything, to tell her loudly, "Idiot. I'm the golden ticket you were chasing. You were only one step away from everything you ever wanted, and now it's gone forever." But I didn't. I couldn't break my quiet, mysterious persona. I told myself to look on the bright side. At least I'd seen her true colors before things went any further. I turned to thank Diana, but a gust of wind blew sand into my eyes, making me blink rapidly. "Noah, she's not worth it," Diana said softly, mistaking my blinking for tears. "Losing you is something she'll regret." I looked at her and thought, this girl seems tough, but she's actually really kind. "I know," I said quietly. Chapter 5. The next day, Fernanda and Charles were openly together. When I ran into them in front of the art building, Fernanda was holding tightly onto Charles's arm, completely ignoring the gossiping students watching them. Charles, on the other hand, was strutting around with a smug smile plastered on his face. "Noah, we meet again," he said arrogantly. I sneered. The fake prince and the cheating girl, a match made in heaven. Every time I said fake prince, Charles's expression twisted with anger. Watching his face darken amused me. Was it worth it? I asked him, putting on this whole fake act just to steal my girl? Charles glanced at the watch on Fernanda's wrist and scoffed. "You don't appreciate what you have. But I do. I know Fernanda's value better than you ever did." "Excellent," I said, smirking. "I can't wait to see you come up empty-handed. Looking forward to that villa trip this weekend." Charles looked like he wanted to say more, but before he could, someone suddenly slipped their arm through mine. A soft, warm body leaned into me, pulling me gently away toward the building. I looked down. It was Diana, the girl who had helped me yesterday. Surprised, I asked, "What are you doing here?" Diana blinked playfully. "Just passing by. Didn't want to see you lose, so I came to give you a hand." I immediately understood her unspoken message. Running into your ex and her new guy. Whoever's alone looks like the loser. She was helping me save face. I nodded slightly and whispered, "Thanks, Diana." She smiled and kept her arm linked with mine as we walked confidently forward, under the curious eyes of everyone watching. That day, the art club had a meeting. The lecture hall was packed. I had called everyone together because I had an important announcement. Lin Sheng Group had sent an invitation for 50 members of the art club to visit and study at Ishu Town for a month. To explain Ishu Town, I had to go back 2 years. When I was a freshman, I was elected president of the art club. Out of excitement, I called my dad to share the news. I didn't expect that by the very next afternoon, the school would receive a massive donation from my dad, specifically designated for the art club. If I hadn't strongly objected, he would have even flown down to personally award me an honorary medal. To strengthen my position as club president, my dad went even further. He invested in building a cultural and artistic hub in the south of the city, named Ishu Town. It attracted over 2,000 fashion companies, hundreds of top designers, and became a thriving creative center. Because I didn't want to reveal my identity, my dad signed a talent partnership agreement with the school in the company's name. Publicly, it was framed as a school enterprise collaboration, promoting creative entrepreneurship and employment. Every year, the school sent art club members to Ishu Town for training. Over time, people came to believe it was part of the formal agreement, but they didn't know that all the participant lists were personally approved by me. Once everyone had arrived, I began reading out names. Laura from the Fine Arts Department, Sophia, Daniel, Jessica from Product Design, Angelo. The 50 students I just called meet at the school gate by 10 a.m. tomorrow to take the bus to Ishu Town for a month of training. The selected students cheered. For art students, this was a golden opportunity, one that looked great on any resume. I closed the attendance book, ready to go over a few details. But suddenly, Alex, one of Charles's lackeys, jumped up. "Noah, isn't that a bit too biased?" he shouted. "Why did you only pick people who are close to you?" That accusation was pure slander. First, as the president, my duty was to be fair. If I weren't, how could I expect this group of top students to respect me? Second, I had my own reputation to think about. Issue Town was my family's business. Everyone there knew me. If I sent unqualified people just because they were close to me, wouldn't that embarrass me personally? Before I could even respond, other members spoke up in my defense. "Why are you saying Noah isn't fair?" one said. "Exactly, everyone he picked is talented, and most of them are seniors who need internships. You're just a freshman. You don't understand how things work. Stop talking nonsense." The crony backed down quickly, but then pushed Charles forward. "Charles, this is so unfair," he whispered loudly. "Why does Noah get to decide everything?" Charles, already humiliated by me several times before, seized the chance to cause trouble. "He's right," Charles said. "The art club shouldn't be run by just one person. I suggest we reselect who gets to go." I didn't even lift my eyes. "Isn't Issue Town under Lin Sheng Group?" I asked lazily. "Who gets to intern there depends on the Lin family's eldest son." Charles froze. He realized he was walking into a trap. Quickly, he tried to backpedal. "My dad is in charge of the company for now. I won't interfere. It's just arranging a few internships," I said calmly. "How is that interfering? Anyone else who wants to go can ask the Lin family's eldest son for permission." Alex's eyes lit up as he looked at Charles expectantly. I smirked. That's what it means when your own plan backfires. Ignoring Charles's dark expression, I went over the final details, announced upcoming events and competitions for the semester, and then dismissed the meeting. Afterward, Diana came up to me and asked, "Want to grab dinner?" My first thought was, she's interested in me. And since I was hungry anyway, I agreed. We went to a sushi place near the school gate. As we ate, I waited for her to confess. But she just kept chatting about random things, campus news, art projects, social gossip, never getting to the point. Finally, I asked, "Do you like me?" Diana froze for a second, her eyes wide, then she nodded. "I've liked you for 2 years." Her words caught me off guard. "You have?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Then, why didn't you ever tell me?" Diana lowered her head, and for the first time, the usually cheerful, confident girl looked a little sad. "I was going to," she said quietly. "But just when I finally worked up the courage, I found out you already had a girlfriend." "Oh," I muttered, feeling a little guilty. To be honest, I felt bad for her. But after just going through a breakup, the last thing I wanted was to jump straight into something new. I was about to gently turn her down when she suddenly looked up, her eyes meeting mine. "Please don't reject me yet," she said quickly. "Just hear me out first." She took a deep breath. "I'm a year younger than you. I'm a sophomore in business management. My family's doing well, and my parents are pretty open-minded. I know what I'm feeling. This isn't just a crush. I've liked you for 2 years, and I'm confident those feelings aren't going anywhere." I didn't know what to say. Hearing her speak so honestly and maturely really touched me. Maybe it's true. When someone's just been through heartbreak, they crave warmth more than anything. And right now, she was the one giving me that warmth. But still, I needed to be honest. I opened my mouth. "Lee." Before I could finish, Diana's expression tightened, and she quickly interrupted me. "You don't have to decide right now," she said, almost pleading. "Just give me a chance. Let's try dating and see how it goes." "Okay." Something about her made me smile. She looked so sincere, and honestly, every time she showed up lately, I'd felt lighter, happier. So why not give it a chance? "All right," I said, smiling softly. "Then I'll be counting on you, girlfriend." Chapter 7. Later that night, I was in my dorm room still thinking about Diana, her surprised face, that hint of cleverness in her smile. I was lost in thought when my phone started ringing. It was my dad. "A blind date?" I repeated, stunned. "You want me to go on a blind date? With who?" My dad hesitated before answering. "It's with your Aunt Moo's daughter. You used to call her Little Moon when you were kids. Do you remember? You two used to play together all the time in kindergarten." I blinked. Wait, why do I suddenly need to go on a blind date? Are we going bankrupt or something? Is this some business alliance thing? That honestly seemed like the only explanation. Not at all. Dad said quickly, "Actually, your grandfather arranged a childhood betrothal between you and Little Moon." My head started to ache. What is this, the 1800s? Who even does arranged marriages anymore? I'm not agreeing to that. We're not asking you to, Dad assured me. But your Aunt Moo suddenly brought it up again. Since our families are close, I couldn't just say no. All I'm asking is that you meet her once. After that, I'll tell them there wasn't a connection. Simple. After hanging up, I sighed. Whether I liked it or not, I had to go. Still, there's always a way to make things interesting. The next day, I borrowed my roommate's wig, a wild, messy one, threw on some loud, flashy clothes, and took a taxi to the meeting place. I intentionally arrived 30 minutes late, expecting to annoy whoever this girl was. But when I got there, she wasn't there yet. 10 minutes later, I spotted an emo-looking girl walking toward me, her swagger practically shouting, "Don't mess with me." My gut told me this wasn't going to be good. The girl, wearing big sunglasses, stopped in front of me. "Little Stone," she said. My heart skipped. Little Moon? Did she actually like this ridiculous getup? Before I could say anything, she suddenly reached out, snatched off my sunglasses and my wig. "What the hey? What are you doing?" I stepped back, half expecting her to throw a punch. Then she said calmly, "Noah, it's me." I looked closer. It was Diana. Sitting in the cafe a few minutes later, I finally got the full story. Diana was Aunt Moo's daughter. Yesterday, she told her mom she was pursuing a guy she really liked me. Her mom, being open-minded and supportive, was fine with it. But then she suddenly remembered the childhood betrothal between our families. Since Diana's family had moved to Beijing years ago, and ours stayed in B City, we hadn't seen each other in forever. No one had ever taken that old promise seriously, but Aunt Moo felt she had to settle it properly. So she came up with a plan. We'd meet for a blind date, then both say we weren't interested, and the whole thing would be over. When she found out Diana and I were in the same city, she arranged the date. I couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation, but Diana seemed thrilled. "See," she said with a grin. "It's fate." Just then, my phone rang. It was Simon from the product design department. "Hey, what's up?" I asked. He sounded anxious. "Noah, we just arrived at Ishu Town. But something's wrong. The staff noticed that several names on the internship list don't match the ones they received. The students from animation and design who were supposed to go got replaced by freshmen like Alex and Luis, Charles's buddies. So Charles had tampered with the internship list. I suddenly remembered. When I left the list on the teacher's desk yesterday, both Fernanda and Charles had been there. It had to be them. They must have figured that since the internship was arranged by the school, the staff at Ishu Town would just go with the names they received. The students who lost their spots would assume the changes came from the rich prince and wouldn't dare complain. They thought they could get away with it. But they were wrong. After hanging up, I laughed to myself. They just walked straight into a trap. Chapter 8. I immediately called the internship supervisor at Ishu Town. 2 hours later, Charles's cronies were sent back in shame, escorted by Supervisor Zhang, who oversaw the school enterprise program. He marched straight into the art department head's office with the terrified students in tow and laid out everything that had happened. Of course, Alex and the others didn't want to take the fall. They quickly pointed their fingers at Charles. When I walked into the office, Alex was nearly in tears. "Supervisor Zhang, it wasn't us. We just asked Charles to get us a spot." Then he added, sulking. "He said he's the prince of Lin Sheng Group, Martin's son." Supervisor Zhang looked at me and seemed to recognize who I was. To keep him from blowing Charles's cover too soon, I subtly shook my head. Not yet. I still wanted to see how Charles planned to talk his way into my villa. Supervisor Zhang cleared his throat. "I don't know the Lin family's eldest son personally," he said carefully, "but whoever's responsible for this needs to face consequences. I expect the school to handle this fairly." The department head nodded quickly, promising to discipline those involved. They pulled up the office surveillance footage, and soon the truth came out. It was Fernanda who had physically changed the list. The next day, the school issued a notice. Fernanda received a major demerit, and her student council position was revoked. As for Charles, he avoided punishment since he hadn't personally altered the list, but rumors started flying. Word spread fast that his rich heir identity was fake. He stayed hidden all day, but he still insisted he'd prove everyone wrong by taking everyone to his villa that weekend. Fernanda, desperate to protect him, took all the blame herself. But that only made things worse. People now openly mocked her for being shameless, saying she'd do anything to please him. Used to being admired, Fernanda couldn't stand the humiliation. She locked herself in her dorm room, convinced Charles would eventually come to comfort her. But her fantasy was about to fall apart. The weekend came fast. Dozens of students, eager to see if Charles really owned a villa, followed him to Zijing Mountain Villa. "This," Charles said proudly, pointing to the massive property, "is the villa my father bought for me." Seeing it in front of them, even the skeptics began to doubt themselves. Wow, what a huge place. No wonder he's from a rich family. Fernanda was there too, her face glowing with pride, as if it was her villa. "I had brought Diana along just to watch the show. The gate only recognizes my info," I told her quietly. "I'm curious to see how he plans to get in." Everyone waited as Charles strutted toward the gate. I expected him to use facial recognition or a fingerprint. Instead, he pressed the doorbell. The doorbell? Who was inside? A few moments later, a woman in her 50s came out, dressed neatly, like a housekeeper. And she actually let Charles in. Even Diana frowned in confusion. I immediately called my dad. "Hey, did you hire a housekeeper for the villa?" My dad sounded puzzled. "Yeah, a woman in her 50s. Last name Sunday Secretary Wang hired her because her son goes to the same school as you." Why? It all clicked. Charles was the son of my housekeeper. I clenched my jaw. I'm firing her. And I'm pressing charges for trespassing. Chapter 9. When the security guards and police arrived, Charles's barbecue party was already in full swing. "Get down. Nobody move," one officer shouted. We received a report of illegal trespassing on private property. Police badges flashed, and a line of security guards stood behind them, armed and serious. The group of college students froze. Most had never seen anything like it. After the situation was explained, the lead officer turned to Charles. "You claim to be the owner of this villa?" Charles's face went pale, the truth hitting him like a ton of bricks. His fake identity, the one he'd been clinging to so tightly, was about to collapse in front of everyone. He looked helplessly toward Aunt Sun, silently begging her to say something. But before she could even speak, the officer cut in sharply, his tone cold and firm. "Don't bother. We've already contacted the real owner," the officer said coldly. "You have no connection to this property. If you don't start talking, we can take you down to the station for a longer chat." The threat worked immediately. Aunt Sun threw herself in front of Charles, panicking. I'll explain. I'm the housekeeper here, and Charles is my son. He said he wanted to bring his classmates over to hang out. So I agreed, thinking the villa was just sitting empty anyway. It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with Charles." Her words dropped like a bomb. The crowd erupted in shock and laughter. "Wait, Charles is the son of the Lin family's housekeeper? And he had the nerve to claim he's the Lin family heir. Charles, you're incredible. When it comes to shamelessness, I really have to hand it to you." He actually pulled off such a stunt. Amid the jeers and mockery, Charles began trembling uncontrollably. His face drained of all color. Then, without warning, he collapsed to the ground. Fernanda's face went pale, as if she had just seen a ghost. She stood there frozen, staring at Charles lying on the floor, as though trying to see right through him. The farce ended with a few students being taken to the police station to give statements, while the rest quietly returned to school. By the next morning, news of what had happened, Charles impersonating Martin's son and taking advantage of his mother's position as the Lin family's housekeeper, had spread like wildfire across campus. It became the hottest topic of the week. The school quickly issued Charles a major demerit. But that was only the beginning of his problems. After my dad bought the villa, he'd asked Secretary Wang to fully stock it with all the essentials, clothing, accessories, everything. And, of course, all of them were luxury brands. The expensive things Charles had been wearing and using to maintain his fake, rich hair persona were items he had either stolen or sold from that villa. I told Secretary Wang to calculate the total losses, and then I filed a lawsuit directly with the People's Court. Charles was now facing a compensation claim worth hundreds of thousands of yuan, and if he couldn't pay it off, he might end up in jail. Not long after that, Fernanda, whom I hadn't seen in a while, reached out through a mutual contact. She sent me a video asking to meet. In the video, Fernanda looked completely worn out. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her hair was a mess. She was holding a fruit knife in her right hand, pressing it against her left wrist. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Noah, I've only ever loved you. I just want to see you one more time. If you don't agree, I'll cut my wrist right here. I'm waiting for you in room 302 at the VIP hotel." I didn't hesitate for a second. I forwarded the hotel name and room number directly to Charles. From the moment Fernanda betrayed me, I had completely lost all patience with her. Chapter 10. Half a month later, after I had arranged that meeting between Charles and Fernanda at the hotel, Secretary Wang informed me that Charles had already paid off all his debts. I thought the matter was finally over. The money Charles used to pay back what he owed undoubtedly came from Fernanda. Fernanda probably had no idea how valuable the gifts I had given her were, but Charles certainly did. Whether he conned her or stole them from her didn't matter anymore. During that time, I was fully focused on my relationship with Diana. Our relationship had been officially acknowledged by both our families, and our parents were all very supportive. As Diana and I spent more time together, I found myself falling for her even more deeply. We were equals financially, socially, and emotionally, which made things effortless between us. It was completely different from how things had been with Fernanda, where I constantly had to tiptoe around her feelings. With Diana, we shared similar values, interests, and worldviews. There was always something to talk about, and even when we sat in silence, it felt peaceful, not awkward. Sometimes I even thought, maybe Charles had been sent by fate to help me. His lies and actions had exposed Fernanda's true nature. And because of him, I found a treasure like Diana. In a strange way, Charles was almost like a benefactor to me. I no longer paid attention to either Fernanda or Charles. I just wanted to live my own life. But one day, a shocking piece of news spread around the campus. Fernanda had attempted murder. She'd been arrested. It was around 5 in the afternoon. Diana and I were having dinner when the sound of police sirens and an ambulance echoed through the campus, racing toward the lake. By the time we finished eating, the truth was already circulating among the students. Fernanda had tried to stab Charles. A passerby had seen what happened and called the police. Charles had been stabbed in the arm and was rushed to the hospital. Fernanda was detained on the spot. A few days later, I learned the full story from classmates. That day, Charles had gone to the hotel room to meet Fernanda. His plan was to ask her for money to help pay off his debts. Naturally, Fernanda refused. So Charles drugged her, stole her watch, and secretly took several inappropriate photos of her. He planned to use them for blackmail. He sold the watch and used the money to pay off part of his debt. But soon enough, he was broke again. Ashamed and afraid of being mocked by his classmates, he didn't want to return to school. His mother, however, told him to face the consequences and kicked him out of the house. With nowhere to go and no money for a hotel, he decided to use the compromising photos to extort money from Fernanda. But Fernanda's family wasn't wealthy. She genuinely didn't have money to give him. Charles didn't believe her. He thought she was holding a grudge and refusing to help out of spite. He pointed at her watch and sneered, "That thing's worth hundreds of thousands. You can't lend me a few thousand to get by." Fernanda had no idea how much the watch was worth, not until she pressed him for answers. When she learned that the watch he had taken was worth tens of thousands, she panicked and demanded he return it. "That watch was a birthday gift from Noah," she shouted. But Charles didn't believe her. He thought it was just an excuse. In his arrogance, he posted a blurred photo of her on the campus network just to scare her. He never expected that this would push Fernanda, who was already emotionally unstable, completely over the edge. When she finally found him by the lake, she didn't hesitate. She stabbed him. If not for the student nearby who saw the attack and called security, Charles might have been stabbed multiple times. The entire campus was in shock. The situation was beyond belief. Both Fernanda and Charles were expelled and later sentenced to prison. Later, I went to visit Fernanda in jail. When she saw me, her face was streaked with tears. Her eyes were hollow, full of regret. She confessed everything. She admitted that she had wronged me, and then told me that when she invited me to that hotel room, she had actually planned to sleep with me, secretly record it, and if I didn't forgive her, accuse me of rape to force me to stay with her. She said she now understood her mistake, believing that heaven was punishing her by letting Charles drug her. Then she asked, trembling, "Charles said the watch you gave me was worth hundreds of thousands. Is that true?" I nodded. It is. Aside from a watch, the belt I gave you for Valentine's Day and the brooch for New Year's are also quite valuable. You can sell them when you get out to make some money. I paused for a moment, then said, "By the way, I think it's time I told you the truth." I took out my phone and showed her a family photo. "I'm actually Martin's son, the real deal." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "The day I invited you to dinner and asked if you knew about Martin's son," I continued, "I was planning to tell you who I really was, and then introduce you to my parents." I looked at her sadly. "Too bad you cheated." Then I smiled faintly. "But thank you. Because of you, I found true love." I showed her the engagement ring on my finger. "I'm very happy now." Fernanda broke down completely. She burst into tears, screaming and slapping herself. "I was wrong. Please, give me another chance. Let's start over," she cried. The guards had to drag her away as she thrashed and wailed. I stood there watching her, pale, exhausted, completely drained of life, and I couldn't tell whether I felt more satisfaction or pity. On the way back, I couldn't help but sigh. "To think the difference between a promising student and a prisoner is just a wall," I murmured, shaking my head. Diana squeezed my hand gently. "That's why people can be greedy," she said softly, "but not too greedy. If you can't control your desires, they'll destroy you. Luckily, in this life, I'm only greedy for you." A warmth spread through my chest. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her forehead. "Yes," I whispered. "Let's agree, only one person to be greedy for life."